This has been something that's been on my mind for a while now, and I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm just going to start rambling and let's just get into it. I recently listened to former President Kennedy's speech on the dedication the United States had on reaching the moon during the Cold War, and one of the things that he said really struck a chord in me.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Which is such a blanket statement that can really be applied to anything you want it to be, and people really took it like that. I even brought this up to my parents, and they said that when they were kids, the teachers would roll out the televisions during these rocket launches. No one wanted to miss this moment in history, when humankind was achieving something that had never been done before. And in watching these astronauts and everyone behind the Apollo mission, there was a widespread sense of inspiration for people to try and do hard things for themselves, to take more risks in their life. And it wasn't even something that was just prevalent in the United States. Other countries were watching. This was just objectively cool. Technology was advancing so far and so fast that we put a man on the rock up there. That's crazy. And so, understandably, I think, I've been trying to dig into what my generation's space race is. My parents had the actual space race, but what is my generation's technology race? And I couldn't figure it out. Because it seems like no widespread technology that comes out recently has held even close to the same amount of weight that the space race did, until I realized we are currently living through our own space race, my generation's space race. It just really sucks. And it's the race for AI, which, let's be honest, I think most people are just tired of hearing about at this point. AI has always been really strange to me. Growing up, there were so many movies about live-in robots that would help with the chores and do your homework, etc., etc. And I remember when I was a kid sitting with my friends theorizing what this stuff would look like in the future, much like how I assume people would sit around and talk about going to the moon. And when the time came to finally go to the moon, it was awesome. Yes, it was a select team of specific, very intelligent people who pulled it off, but the general interest of society, the fact that so many people shared the interest in seeing it be done, even if they weren't the ones behind it, made it almost feel like it was this culmination between hard work from NASA and the dreams of the everyday folk. But now that the time has come where we're literally rolling out the same live-in robots that my generation talked about as kids, I don't think anyone could give a damn, me included. In fact, if you asked me whether I'd rather have AI in its current state or get rid of it altogether, I'd say see ya, don't write home. Because the ideas that we were fed as kids versus the reality of those ideas coming together now that we're adults isn't just harmful to the planet or to creatives like authors or illustrators. It's harmful to inspiration as a whole. And that last part is quite literally what's keeping me up at night. I've been racking my brain to figure out why my generation's space race is falling flat on its space face. Bars. And after a lot of thinking, I kind of figured it out. Now, the topic of AI is not one that needs any introduction. Everyone knows it steals from artists. Everyone knows it's an objectively terrible search engine. But I think what the main underlying problem is, not with AI itself, but why the product feels so dull, is because it is the exact antithesis to what the space race was. I'll play Kennedy's quote again.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And now, listen to a quote from OpenAI's founder, Sam Altman.
Yeah, and so I feel like I'm not asking a good enough question, but it is, I cannot imagine having gone through that, like figuring out how to raise a newborn without ChatGPT. Clearly, people did it for a long time, no problem.
Yes,
but
yeah.
So I know it.
Do you hear that? Did it sink in? That, I think, is the main difference between my parents' generation's space race and my generation's race for AI. We went to the moon because it was hard, and we use AI because it's easy. Please don't parent your kids with AI. I'm begging. I'm on my knees begging. And this is when it started to click into place for me. I think this is why, despite technology being the best it's ever been, literally in terms of human achievement, I've never felt less inspired as a whole. Now, it's worth noting, I'm very inspired, but the inspiration comes from niche corners of the internet, VTubing, for example, or manga, anime. And I absolutely geek out on the technological advances in the VTubing sphere or at Magical Mirai. VC Face is literally the reason I'm able to do this hobby as a virtual coffee barista. But as a general group, as a world population, no. I mean, I don't think people are inspired. At least not to the lengths that they were during the space race. The space race, it was never about putting a man on the moon for the heck of it. It was about doing something that was at one point looked at as impossible. The inspiration didn't come from the act itself, but more so the determination of the human race to say, I will not be held down by an imaginary boundary that seems too tall to climb. I will figure out a way to climb it. And that lesson, that way of thinking, can pretty much be applied to anything, which is why I think people were so encapsulated by it. You could apply that exact same logic to any dream you had and be inspired. But with AI, it doesn't feel like it's helping you climb a mountain or cross a boundary that was once seen as impossible. It just kind of in the way. AI videos, AI art, it's taking the human out of human achievement, and I don't think you can really call any of the junk it spits out an achievement either. Again, landing on the moon was inspiring because it was hard, because it was one of humanity's biggest achievements to date. I would argue still is. You know what would have not been inspiring? If we just put in a prompt that said, hey Grok, put this man on the moon now. Because it was never fully about the end result. It's never fully about the end result. Think about One Piece, right? The manga's been going on for 20 years and we still don't know what the One Piece is. And even so, even not knowing what the One Piece is, it is the greatest selling manga of all time. Because it's about the journey there. And when we find the One Piece, when we finally learn what it is, it's gonna be so rewarding. Because it's the culmination of Oda's efforts throughout all these years to tell a great story. And it's the culmination of the fans theorizing and discussing what it could be. When we finally figure it out, it's going to be insane, but it wouldn't have been that crazy if we knew what the One Piece was in, like, chapter 5. There would be no theories, there would be no community, say it with me now, there would be no inspiration. And I think the same can be said for AI. Admiring a piece of art is awesome because it goes to show how much time and effort the artist has put not only into that piece, but the countless hours that they have spent honing their craft. And for AI to spit out a finished product through a couple prompts in a system, it doesn't hit the same. It's slop. Because it's never fully about the final product. Are you listening to me? It's never about the final product. It never was. But somewhere along the way, they tried to convince us that it is about the final product. We want a way to fast track everything, which for productivity and businesses, sure, is great. But for the average person, for the people trying to find meaning in life, there's no shortcut to doing cool shit. Everything cool in life, you have to put some amount of effort in for. I love snowboarding. Do you think I hopped on a snowboard and could immediately grind rails and take ramps? No, I worked for that. I fell, I got frustrated, my body was sore, I was in the gym doing exercises specifically to strengthen my legs so I could snowboard for longer periods of time and practice more and more. Because watching those Olympic athletes do these insane tricks on a snowboard, get this, is inspiring. And it's not inspiring because the trick looks cool. It's inspiring because of the amount of work that they put in to make the trick look cool. It's inspiring because of the falls, the injuries, the stories behind each individual athlete. I couldn't give a damn if someone AI generated a video of the coolest snowboard trick ever because it's not about the trick. It's never about the trick. Just like it wasn't about landing on the moon, it was about the journey to get there. And so in a time where our modern technology is at an all-time low in terms of inspiration, I ask you this, where does your inspiration come from? My inspiration for VTubing comes from Hosho Marine. It comes from Mint Phantom, Banzo and Haka, Ninamai Inanis. I like the way they run their channels, I like how they present themselves, and I want to create a community that is as welcoming as theirs is. My inspiration for writing comes from Oda, Isayama, Fujimoto, these great manga artists that weave these long-running stories with plot threads you never see coming, and they've spent years honing their craft, and you can see all the different places they pull inspiration from in their art. For snowboarding, look no further than Chloe Kim, Shaun White, people whose hard work has pushed the sport past what we thought was possible. Inspiration is still there. You can find it in the incredible people that are doing incredible things every day. Just because the world of technology wants you to be uninspired doesn't mean you can't look elsewhere for that inspiration. Find it. It is out there. It's hard. It's hard to find. But you know what else was hard? Landing on the moon. And that difficulty is what made it so impactful. Push yourself. Learn new things. Find things to get excited about. Don't lose your whimsy.